Hello everyone, welcome back. So now we will be discussing RBI Grade B Officers Exam Phase 2 question and answers which we had started. And in this video, we will be continuing from question number 11. So as you can see the screen, the questions are already displayed here. Well, let me read out the question. Which of the following recent economic trends bode well for the growth prospects and the overall macroeconomic situation of India? Firstly, steep decline in oil prices, plentiful flow of funds from the rest of the world, potential impact of the reform initiatives of the new government at the center, calibrated fiscal management, all of the above as given in the options. So, factors like steep decline in oil prices, plentiful flow of funds from the rest of the world, and potential impact of the reform initiatives of the new government at the center along with calibrated fiscal management, all of these do contribute or do bode well for the growth prospects and the overall macroeconomic situation for India. So these are all the growth prospects. There was a steep decline in oil prices, plentiful flow of funds were there from the rest of the world, potential impact of reform initiatives and fiscal management. So all these contributing to the growth prospects of overall macroeconomic situation in India. So we mark option number 5 as the correct option since all of the answers were correct. So option number 5 is the correct answer. Coming to question number 12. Now, consider the following statements. While there can be development without growth, growth without development is inconceivable. We have to basically mention which is true and which does not agree to us. Next, B, a substantial rise in country's GNP is required before it can hope to expand its industries and the service sectors. Compared to the objective of growth, economic development may be easy to realize. Now let's discuss all of these points in detail. While there can be development without growth, growth without development is inconceivable. How will you expect development without growth? Right? Development without growth. While there can be development without growth, growth without development is definitely not possible. Like according to a famous economist, Kindleberger, he considered that economic growth may be referred to rise or increase in the outcome or the output nature, economic development, and it implies to the technological and institutional changes at the speaking of development in the production as well as the distributive patterns of the economy. So therefore, it's a broader concept, right? Development is a broader concept than economic growth. We can have economic growth, but that does not contribute only to development. So if we are talking about development, development without growth is still possible, but growth without development is inconceivable. So A is very true. Coming to option number B, a substantial rise in a country's GNP is required before it can hope to expand its industries and service sectors. While there can be growth without development, development without growth is inconceivable, which I already discussed, but the option number B, which is says a substantial rise in country's GNP is required before it can hope to expand its industries and the service sectors. Right. So talking of this, nowhere in the world has the occupational distribution of population changed in the absence of growth. So we cannot consider this factor as a part or true to the question that is asked. Coming to option number C, compared to the objective of growth, economic development may be easy to realize. Definitely not. So here we can consider only option A as the correct option. Right, so we have your options only A as only number 1. Right, only number 1 is our correct option. So we are marking only number A1 as the correct one. Others are inconceivable. That cannot be marked as true. Both A and C, both B and C, only C, both A and C. No, only A is the correct option to our answer. Next, moving on to the third question. Economic development is generally defined to include economic improvements in material welfare, especially for persons with lowest income, eradication of mass poverty with its correlates of illiteracy, diseases, and early death, changes in the composition of inputs and outputs that generally include shifts in the underlying structure of production uh, away from agricultural growth. Now, discussing all of these, see, economic development is always related to improvement in material welfare, right? So that is true. It is also related to eradication or removing away mass poverty, obviously, which includes the illiteracy, diseases, and early death. These are the components of mass poverty. So when we are talking of removing mass poverty, we are also including these factors of removing illiteracy, diseases, and early death. So this is also a correct answer to this. Next, moving on to the third option, that is option number C. Changes in the composition of inputs and outputs that generally include shifts in the underlying structure of production away from agricultural growth. Yes, away from agricultural growth, we can talk of the secondary and the tertiary sectors. So these are also contributing to economic development. So in that case, we can consider that option A, B, and C, all the three are correct. It is broadly based of group making decisions about the directions, economic and otherwise, in which they should move to improve their welfare, and definitely relating to welfare, there will be economic development. So we can consider as option A, B, and C as the correct option, which is option number 5. Option number 5 is our correct option. So we mark this as option number 5. Next, moving on to question number 14. Development is conceived of as a process that involves major changes in social structure, popular attitudes, national institutions, both 2 and 3, and number 5 is all of the above. Now discussing this, let me give you a popular quotation that was said by Tudaro. He said that development is a multi-dimensional process involving major changes in social structure, popular attitudes, and national institutions, as well as the acceleration of economic growth, the reduction of inequality, and the eradication of absolute poverty. This was his quote. So, according to the quote, if we go by that, we can consider social structure, popular attitude, and national institutions to be a major part where development is conceived. So these are the factors to it. So accordingly, all of the above are the correct options. That is option number 5, all of the above. Next, moving on to answer number 15. Which of the following core values should serve as a conceptual basis and practical guidelines for understanding the inner meaning of development? Sustenance, self-esteem, freedom from servitude, both 1 and 2, all of the above. This is also famous quote by Golet, where he says that at least three basic components should serve as a conceptual basis and practical guideline for understanding the inner meaning of development, where he includes sustenance as number 1. He also includes self-esteem. Apart from that, there are components of freedom that represent common goals sought by all individuals and societies. They relate to fundamental human needs that find their expression in almost all of the societies and cultural at most of the time. So, going by the quote of Golet, we can consider sustenance, self-esteem, and freedom from servitude as 3 important understandings or 3 practical guidelines to consider the inner meaning of development. So accordingly, we mark option number 5 as the correct option, which says all of the above. Next, coming to question number 16. According to Dries and Sen, which of the following should be seen as the central feature in the process of development? Number 1 is grain economy, Number two, expansion of human capability, political participation, equality of opportunity, and none of these. Now, according to Dresensen, in recent years, development economics has been taking a much more inclusive view of the nature of economic development. One way of seeing development is in terms of expansion of the real freedoms that the citizens actually enjoy to pursue the objectives they have the reason to value. And in this sense of expansion of human capability can be a broader sense, so we can consider that as a broader term as the central feature of process of development. In that case, though green economy and political participation or equal opportunity can be considered a factor, the most important factor for the process of development, according to Bresensen, is expansion of human capability, which is option number two. So option number two, which is the expansion of human capability, if you go by the quote or Bresensen, then definitely you'll be able to understand what what they are trying to mean is capability of human should be expanded so as to attain the process of development to a complete process. So in this video, we have discussed up till question number 16. In the next videos, we will be coming up with the rest of the questions. So concluding my video here, I hope you have understood all of the questions. Thank you and keep following.